All right. The next part of his question is, can I get a triple net lease for a unit in a strip mall, or do I charge CAM fees instead?
Okay, so the CAM fees is the common area maintenance. So really, it's like a triple net plus the common area maintenance. When you're in a strip mall, you actually have to pay the fees that are shared with everybody. The difference is CAM fees dictate, if you will, almost 99% of the time that, let's say there are 5 tenants, and for the simplification of the calculation, each one has 2,000 square feet of space. So they're sharing 10,000 square feet. The cost is $10,000. So each one is going to pay proportionately based on their square footage, $2,000 each. One tenant leaves. Now you're going to have that 10,000 divided by 4 tenants. So it's just going to increase. So in a strip mall, you want to do the CAM. You don't want to forget that, because common area maintenance will also include, let's say you want to re-asphalt the parking, you want to actually fix something on the roof, they all will have to share. It's a little crazy, and if you're in a big mall, they can gouge you. I've had situations and instances when students have came back and did these consulting calls with me where they just pay me for an hour and we discuss. And I looked at some numbers, it was in Los Angeles, and I said, they're stealing from you. It's impossible this is correct. Just challenge the numbers, have them send you back up. And he was telling me, I'm trying to leave this mall and they don't want me to leave. I have 2 more years, they want to ruin my credit. As soon as he challenged them and said, send me the backup and copy my CPA and my attorney, they said, hey, if you want to leave, we can go ahead and take a 30-day notice. They got him out because they were adding the wrong numbers. You'll be amazed how many supposedly ethical big companies would just gouge the customers, the tenants that they have in these big malls. That's why a lot of the tenants like single tenant locations where they can control the marketing, they control traffic, the way they want to advertise, etc. But they do also like malls, especially if there is a big anchor that's going to bring traffic into the mall. So use CAM and make sure it covers tax, insurance, and maintenance, and make sure the tenant understands that it's all paid proportionate to the square footage they have in that specific strip mall.
And his last question is, can a Class C strip mall be turned into a Class B strip mall, or does it mostly depend on the neighborhood?
Well, if it's C and the neighborhood is bad, you can still improve that type of mall, that type of strip mall, based on the tenant you'll bring in. I don't know if I shared with you the story that actually really made me think completely differently about retail. And I'll tell you the story. It's a 2-minute story. Many years ago, I was going to Orlando and I was going to the office. The office was downtown and it was getting dark and I just got lost. This is so long ago, there was no GPS that you could have. There was no GPS on the phone, okay? So I'm driving and there is the road going straight, then you're supposed to go left to go downtown. But I didn't realize, I got disoriented and I went right. It was very dark. That area is very bad, close to downtown. It's so bad that as I was driving, trying to understand where to go, every person walking by was like, what is he doing here? What is he doing here? This is a nice car. Is it a rental? Is it his? I mean, I'm scared. Finally, I pull up in a gas station. It's very bright area. And I'm like, okay, at least there is some light here. If anybody stabs me, there will be some cameras that will know how I left. And I rolled the window a little bit and I asked the guy, excuse me, where is downtown? Give me $5, I'll tell you where downtown is. Anyway, I peeled off and got off. As I'm driving, trying to figure out where to go, I see this standalone building with graffiti all over, just disaster area, trash all over and bars on the things. And I thought to myself, who is crazy enough to buy that single tenant building in this neighborhood? Well, sure enough, a couple of years later, I go to Orlando, I'm going downtown to the office and I'm driving. It was like 2 in the afternoon. It was a lot brighter. And I tend to be a lot more courageous when there is light outside. So I said, oh my gosh, this is the convention center. This is where I turned right a couple of years ago. It was so bad. I'm going to go to check out that single tenant building. And if it's still dilapidated, what's going on in the daytime? And I drove and I see a Jack in the Box, beautiful, white with red, cars on the actual drive-through, cars that go like, you know, all this stuff, crazy stuff, but it's packed. You can see from the glass people sitting inside, and it dawned on me Somebody was smart enough to grab that building for maybe 200, 250,000, put Jack in the Box for 15, 20 years, property's worth at least $1 million plus in there, maybe $1 million too, and it's happening because killers need to eat too. So he took a C, maybe even a D building in a horrible neighborhood that actually became better, and guess what? Even people living in that neighborhood that are frustrated from life will start taking care of their own neighborhood because it's providing them something. Now they're part of society. And it was a complete change in my mind. There is no such thing as a bad deal. You just have to understand the neighborhood, what type of business to do there, how to bring value, and then make it happen. Now, it's a lot easier to do it in a bigger city and better location, take a B to an A. But the point I want to make is, yes, you can take a C to a B by bringing the best possible tenants. And these tenants will be happy to pay less on the rent, and they will do fine so long as traffic is there. All right.
All right, Victor, I see that you're on here. Did you have any follow-up question for Cherif on that?
Thanks, Cherif.
Sure.
Can you hear me, Ashley?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the only follow-up I have is on question number 1. Because I'm in the JV program and I'm learning and studying what you're teaching, but I'm wondering if there's anything differently that we would need to do in the strip mall versus a single tenant building when approaching, national tenants. Any other pitch we would have to do, because I see Starbucks has many single tenant buildings, but they also are in malls as well. So do you approach them differently?
Yes. When it comes to strip malls or any location where a tenant is going to come in, they want to know who's going to be a nearby tenant. Now in a strip mall, they're literally sharing walls. I mean, they're adjacent to each other. So you're going to need to make sure to tell them there is, let's say, Ben & Jerry's in the corner, but in my building there is a small check cashing business with this and that. There is a laundromat, there is this. They want to know if being in your strip mall is going to add to the traffic and who is going to be there. So that's an important disclosure. It's not as important when in a standalone building. They want to know who is another national tenant that's big enough across the street and nearby. But when it's a strip mall, they want to know every detail about even a small tenant close by. And they may even ask you, who is the closest one to us and what business do they have and how long is the lease? They may want you to disclose information on the lease and if you know their gross sales and things like that. Now, in the JV program, we don't do strip malls or malls, as I explained before, because it requires more due diligence. But in case you're buying your own, that's what I would suggest you disclose more on that info.
Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay.